How many guns do you think there are in Call of Duty that start with the letter A? How many can you think of right now? Well, today, we may be starting a new series. We may be evolving on the channel or completely digressing after almost 17 years doing this. It's probably the dumbest series we've ever done, but it actually seems like it could be pretty fun. Today, we're going to rank every single Call of Duty gun that starts with the letter A, from worst to absolute best. And if you guys like it, for whatever reason, we could go through the entire alphabet. Or if you want these more obscure Call of Duty list topics, you let me know. What's your favorite A gun in the comments? I read every single comment on every single video, and this video is massive. There are 60 guns in Call of Duty history that start with the letter A. And at dead last, at number 60, is the ASP. Black Ops 1. It is one of the worst handguns in COD history. I had to give it the bottom spot on today's list. I mean, it's terrible. Ammo capacity, damage, but what really made it so horrible was the fact that literally every stat was outclassed by another handgun in the game. So once you unlocked literally everything else, the ASP became the worst secondary weapon on your created class menu. Total trash can of a pistol. Super easy choice for being the worst A weapon in COD history. At number 59, the AUG in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, I've called this one of the worst SMGs in Call of Duty history, and I'll say it one more time. This is one of the worst SMGs in Call of Duty history. The AUG was supposed to be this super versatile version of the iconic bullpup platform, but it ended up just being an underwhelming, all-around, not worth gun taking into battle. I mean, I think Infinity Ward intended for you to load it up with attachments and fine-tune it for a certain playstyle, but at the end of the day, it wasn't good at any particular thing, which made it kind of lame. Made it kind of lame at everything. I mean, I'll definitely call it one of the worst guns in the game, and certainly one of the worst A guns in COD history. At number 58, the AN-94 in Modern Warfare 2019. I think this is one of the biggest downgrades in Call of Duty history. The AN-94 we know. It debuted in Black Ops 2. You'll hear about that version later in the video, much later. And the Modern Warfare 2019 version was the first time we've gotten it outside of the Black Ops franchise. But Infinity Ward decided to completely butcher the appeal of the weapon. They nerfed its damage. They gave it bouncy recoil. The original AN-94 was loved, the accuracy, the damage output, but this version, it was a pea shooter that was weirdly hard to control, which literally went against everything we liked about the original version. It's not even like you could buff this thing in the gunsmith very effectively because none of the attachments were going to buff the absolute crappy base damage stats. Not a good weapon. Absolute disgrace to the Black Ops 2 version, and absolute disgrace to guns that start with the letter A. Also, this is pretty cool because we're going to do series like this and we're going to talk about guns we hardly ever talk about. At number 57, we have a long way to go. Let's see if you make it all the way to the end of this video. Some of you like these mega long videos. The AMR-9 in Advanced Warfare. The first 5-round burst SMG sounded awesome on paper, that when we got our hands on it, it wasn't. A burst weapon was already kind of hard to justify in a game where everybody had jetpacks. I mean, a 5-round burst weapon, you were supposed to use it close to mid-range? Sledgehammer should have known nobody was going to like this thing. It was way too difficult to use reliably. I mean, why the heck would I use a 5-round burst SMG instead of just using a full auto, especially when there are other full auto weapons in Advanced Warfare that were so much better? And ironically, several of them started with the letter A. You'll hear about them later in this video. This is important information for you guys to digest. At number 56, how do you say this? Automaton or automaton? I don't even know. Why can't I say that word? Automaton? Automaton. COD World War II. It's really good in Vanguard. I mean, first appeared in COD World War II. I thought it was underwhelming. Maybe that's because I now know just how strong the Vanguard version was, so it's not hard to make that mental comparison. But COD World War II's version felt weak compared to other rifles in the game. The fire rate was slow. The iron sights were weird. The damage just wasn't high enough to make it feel like it was worth taking into battle. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just in the minority, but this is one of my least favorite guns in COD World War II. At number 55. You realize we had to rank every one of these too, right? This wasn't easy. The Amelie and Ghosts. How many of you actually use the Amelie and Ghosts? Raise your hand. Probably not many of you. Light machine guns, they weren't that popular in this game aside from the N27 and the chainsaw. And the Amelie, it was your standard middle-of-the-road LMG. Didn't do anything particularly well, and it forced you to run around at a snail's pace, and it took 5 years to reload. This gun just did not fit the pace of Ghost, and you hardly ever saw it online. And now, guarantee I'll get stands in the comment section. The Amelie was great, Jimmy. You're an idiot. At number 54, the Atlas 45 in Advanced Warfare. I mean, it's a pistol. It's just a dinky little pistol that you only use as a last resort situation. It's not horrible. There's nothing wrong with it. But when's the last time you even thought about it? mean, if I didn't bring up this gun, you would have never thought of the Atlas ever again in your life unless we got Advanced Warfare 2 and it came back. At number 53, the AE4 in Advanced Warfare. The Energy Assault Rifle. It's pretty weird. I think Sledgehammer was hoping we would all use it because it was cool, even though there was a lot of downsides to it. First of all, it was an energy rifle, so that meant it was the only assault rifle in the game that could not penetrate cover. Secondly, it had unlimited ammo. That's cool. It was an energy weapon. But then it would overheat pretty easily, so you would sometimes get caught with your pants down in the middle of a gunfight. And third, the damage wasn't even that good to make up for all the downsides we talked about, so it's not like it was going to be able to compete with the other rifles in the game. It was neat, but it wasn't very good. And it started with the letter A. At number 52, the AN-94 in Black Ops 4. Now, this might be a harsh placement for this gun, but I'm really not sure where else to put it. The Black Ops 4 version of the AN-94, it just wasn't fun to use. It was underwhelming, especially when you consider the legacy of this weapon in the Black Ops series. You'll see what I mean later in the video when I say that I just don't think the Black Ops 4 version had anything special about it. A lot of people straight up forgot it existed because whenever I say anything about the Black Ops 4 version of the AN-94 in a video, which I have, there's that one guy in the comment who says something along the lines of, wait, the AN-94 was in Black Ops 4? Question mark? I think that tells you everything you need to know about this. Also, guys, I'm trying to do this in one shot. Like, no cuts, no taking a break, no taking a breath. I am literally trying to go 60-1 with you guys in one take. At number 51, the Atlas 20mm in Advanced Warfare. Now, this gun was interesting. It looked awesome, but it was never seen online because sniping in this game sucked. If you weren't using the insta-kill Moors, you were using the wrong sniper. And with how hard it was to hit people while they were bunny hopping around the map, you only wanted to use sniper rifles that would guarantee the one-shot kill. And despite the Atlas being this giant shoulder-mounted sniper rifle that looked like it would be an insta-kill like something out of Halo, it wasn't. You would get some really annoying hit markers with this thing, and the handling, it was clunky, of course, sluggish on top of all that, which made it really frustrating to use. It was an awesome-looking gun, started with an A, but it wasn't very good. At number 50. The AK-47 in Advanced Warfare. This had to be one of the most underwhelming DLC weapons in COD history. I mean, I was excited to get the AK back in this game, but when I finally got my hands on it, I almost immediately put it back down because it was bad. It was bouncy, the reload animation was weird, the sound effects were not punchy or satisfying, the damage didn't feel consistent unless you were at close range. It was usable, but I don't think anybody would say this was their favorite version of the AK-47. For such an iconic name and weapon, it should have been better. At number 49, the Akita in Black Ops 7. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm just putting it here because I don't know crap about it. At first, I thought it was called the Akira, which would have been a cool reference, but it's actually called the Akita, which isn't a reference to anything. And I really don't know anything about the gun in the current state of the game because I truly don't care about the current state of Black Ops 7. So from what I hear on the street, people are saying about it online, it's mid. So here it is. At number 48. The AA-12 in Modern Warfare 3, the original. Now, this was one of the most severe game-to-game nerfs I've ever seen. The classic AA-12 was a freak of nature. We'll talk about it later in the video. But the Modern Warfare 3 2011 version, entirely different gun. Yeah, it was still a full auto shotgun, but the damage was now horrible, and it was also now a primary weapon, so you had to dedicate your entire class to it instead of whipping it out and getting a get-out-of-jail-free card. You never saw the AA-12 online in classic Modern Warfare 3. Still don't know why the devs decided to nerf it so hard, but they did. I know it was a little ridiculous in classic Modern Warfare 2, but that's what made it special. They didn't have to shove it down in the dirt. At number 47, the AK-47 in Black Ops 7. I hear it's fine now. It's kind of cool when the game came out, but when I stopped caring, I stopped playing it, so I'm just going to go with the community's opinions here. I mean, for what I understand, the AK, did I say 47? AK-27. I hear it's okay. Probably decent. At number 46, the AX-50. The AX-50 in Modern Warfare 2019. Bolt-action sniper, kind of middle ground between the super light car and the super heavy HDR, but because it was middle ground, didn't really get much attention online. If you wanted something quick and reliable, you would just run the car. If you wanted something slower but hit like a tank, you would run the HDR. The Axe, it was middle ground that nobody was asking for. It wasn't a bad gun by any means, but it just didn't have much of a defined place in the multiplayer, so you didn't see it very often. At number 45, the Ameli in Advanced Warfare. Yes, it was brought back in AW for some reason, and once again, your pretty standard light machine gun. Accuracy solid enough, but that handling was super sluggish, which would sometimes get frustrating in a game that played as quickly as Advanced Warfare. So even though the time to kill was good and the ammo was plentiful, you never really felt like you were getting the most out of the weapon because it's how much time you would spend holding it to your eye or repositioning from one place to another. Now, if you were more of a defensive player, it probably worked in your favor, but if you were trying to play quickly at all, you probably struggled. At number 44, the AS-44 in Vanguard. Honestly, I don't know a lot about this gun. A lot of the weapons in COD Vanguard kind of blur together in my brain because of how many attachments you could put on them, which was inevitably going to make them all feel the same. I think the AS-44 was good in the game. I think it was pretty middle of the road when it comes to the overall tier list, but then again, I could be wrong here. I'm just going to put it here on the ranking and move on because honestly, everything in Vanguard was viable. Yeah, some guns were better than others, but if there's one thing I can commend Sledgehammer on in regards to COD Vanguard, which I don't usually give lots of positive feedback on it, is they made sure every gun in the game was viable. I don't think there's any truly bad weapons in that game. Correct me if I'm wrong. At number 43, the AK-74U in Black Ops 3 might be a hot take for the video. Seems like this gun had a lot of defenders for some reason. I hated it. Not only was it locked behind supply drops, it also kind of destroyed the appeal of the gun in the first place. The recoil was still very high and the fire rate was low for an SMG, but the damage was also severely nerfed and that range drop-off could get pretty brutal. It just didn't feel like an AK-74U to me. I mean, I'll give it a higher spot than I originally considered because I know a lot of my grievances with the gun are probably personal preference, I think. But I'm not going any higher than 43. I was super let down by the remake. I don't think I'm alone. At number 42, the ARX-160 in Ghost. Now, this version was one of the weakest assault rifles in Ghost, and you felt it. Yeah, the fire rate was high, it looked really cool, but the damage output, it really kept you from seeing the fruits of your labor with this gun. Ghost had some melt machines for you to pick from. Sometimes I don't know, I feel like the ARX felt like it was out of place with the number of shots it took to kill. It looked and sounded great, but it was never popular. I think 42 is a fair spot. Definitely not the kind of gun I think of when I'm thinking of really awesome guns that start with an A. At number 41, the Atlas in Infinite Warfare. Now, the quirk of this LMG was that it had the best accuracy and range in the entire class, but it had the smallest ammo capacity, which meant it was kind of like a middle-of-the-ground AR LMG. I guess it's okay. It's nothing special to write a home about, but I also didn't use it very much, and I guess neither did anyone else because I've literally never heard anybody talk about this weapon, so I'm just going to put it at 41. At number 40, the ASG-89 in Black Ops 6. I don't know what the 89 means. Semi-auto shotgun, it was okay. I don't know that a lot. I don't have a lot to say about the gun because of how much it changed throughout the life cycle of the game. It was busted for a while, I know, but then attachments got nerfed, and now I think it's okay. It's probably my least favorite shotgun in the game for the short amount of time I played. I wasn't much of a shotgunner in Black Ops 6 outside the Marine SP pump action, but here it is. At number 39, the AK-12 in COD Ghosts. This thing was super accurate. I actually like this gun. Moderate fire rate assault rifle. Back in the Ghost days, you had the trade-off. The accuracy was good, but the damage output, or lack of damage output, was there. The AK-12 was not a very strong weapon, so even though it was easy to land shots, you were going to get a lot of hit markers, and in a game like Ghost, where the time to kill could literally be instantaneous, that was going to make the AK feel underwhelming. It's probably, I'd say, mid-tier overall, but I'm going to put it at number 39 because it didn't really feel that responsive sometimes. You would be getting instantly deleted from 50 feet away by someone with an SMG, but then you'd crack them 3 times with an AK-12 from 30 feet away, and they'd walk it off like nothing happened. That was really frustrating. At number 38, the Auger DMR in Black Ops 4. Now, you didn't see much of this gun online, and I'm not sure why, because it was solid. Semi-auto rifle, decent time to kill, moderate recoil. I guess you didn't see it a lot because it was probably the weakest in the class, but that doesn't mean it was bad. That's just because other tactical rifles were stronger, had a bit more going for them. The Auger, it was forgettable, but it wasn't bad. I'm going to give it some love here. I don't think I've ever talked about it. Honestly, this may be the first time. At number 37, the Auger in Infinite Warfare. Now, I remember when this gun came out. It was a little weird to get used to, but once you figured it out, this thing was actually pretty awesome. It was a minigun that takes a little time to spool up like a turbo, but once you get it going, that time to kill was stupid. Basically, it was the death machine if the death machine was more fair, and if the death machine had way more limited ammo, and if the death machine had way higher recoil, and it took longer to spool. Maybe that isn't that much like the death machine. Maybe it wasn't actually that good, but it was fun to use. At number 36, the AK-47 in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, it's a shame that this gun wasn't better because it was visually one of the coolest guns in the franchise. This version of the AK was beefy, featured that huge sound effect, the visuals were great. It was even capable of a 2-shot kill if you aimed high. But the downsides, there was a lot. Despite the insane power, the fire rate was one of the slowest for an AK in COD history, which meant the time to kill wasn't that fast, even if you got the 2-shot kill. And in a game like Modern Warfare 2019, where you could get melted in the blink of an eye, the AK-47 sometimes felt like a bit of a weight. It was super satisfying. I loved running this thing, especially with the absurd 75-round drum mag attachment, but it wasn't a top-tier assault rifle in the game. It starts with an A. Here it is at number 36. At number 35, the AVS-36 in COD World War II. Now, this one and the automaton, very similar in the game. But the AVS felt like the slightly better choice because it was also slow firing and had some weird iron sights, but it also felt more chunky in the damage, like I was getting more out of the sacrifices that I was making by picking it up. Maybe I'm off base. I don't know. I'm not going to rule that out, but I just thought this was a bit more fun to use. Now, you might disagree with just how much higher I'm putting on the list, but I think that's mainly due to the fact that there's so many mid-tier weapons that start with the letter A. So even though the AVS and the auto are something like 20 spots apart on the list, they're not actually that far away from each other in the stat matchup, if that makes any sense. I know, this list is really long. At number 34, the ABR-A1, awesome name, I'm kidding, in Black Ops 6. The new version of the AUG had both burst fire and full auto options. I mean, both setups were pretty strong. The burst fire mode, pretty slow, but it also hit like a truck. Granted, the slower fire rate made it more risky in a game as fast-paced as Black Ops 6, but if you could get the hang of it, or the timing, you could cook with this. At number 3, the Airsoka in World at War. Let's get some World at War love in here. It was one of the bolt-action snipers in the game. I seem to remember it being one of the most popular. Most of the snipers in the game actually had identical stats, and you were just supposed to pick the one that felt, the one that called to you, the best for your playstyle. But this one was definitely a lot of people's favorite. That makes sense because it was smooth. It felt really consistent, especially for iron sight sniping. I think it's a fair spot. At number 32, the ABR-223 in Black Ops 4, 3-round burst, relatively low fire rate, also very high damage, made it one of the most satisfying guns in the game. Black Ops 4 had a really long time to kill, so anything could get a one-burst kill, it was going to be appealing. The range and the consistency of the ABR was hard to put down once you got the hang of the burst timing, and it also had some cool mastercrafts. Remember the one that made it look like a fighter jet? And actually, little sneak peek, I think we're going to be ranking some mastercrafts soon for you guys. At number 31, the AS-50 in Modern Warfare 3, the original. This is one of the most slept-on snipers in Call of Duty history. I said it. It's actually the strongest gun in the entire game in terms of raw bullet damage. Almost always got you a one-shot kill. In fact, I don't think I ever saw anyone get a hit marker with this. Ever. Not one time. It was pretty heavy, and the zoom on the scope was about half what the other snipers had, so it took a little getting used to. But once you figured out the magic sauce here, you could rack up insta-kills like you were mowing the lawn. I always give this gun love whenever I get the chance, which isn't very often. It really should have been more popular than it was back in the day. My friends, we're halfway through. We made it to number 30. The AMP-63 in Black Ops Cold War, the remake of the PM-63, and in case you never played the original Black Ops, the PM-63 was trash. But Treyarch decided to make things a little better this time around. So not only was it renamed the AMP-63, it was also given a hefty damage buff and moved down the pistol category instead of taking up the entire primary weapon slot. Now, as a full auto sidearm, it was reliable. Great choice to quickly swap to if you need to finish off some other injured enemies out there and get yourself out of a sticky situation. Not amazing, not mind-blowing, but very reliable. Solid spot. At number 29, the Argus in Black Ops 4, a faithful, I say faithful, remake of the Black Ops 3 lever-action shotgun, but we did have some nerfs. Shotguns were secondaries in this game, so obviously the Argus couldn't be as ridiculous as it was in the original appearance, but as far as Black Ops 4 shotties go, it was a reliable pick. If you aim down the sights, the pellets would tighten up, basically a slug weapon, which gave it super impressive range. Plus, it did keep that iconic tuna can magazine reload as well, which was always neat to watch when you reloaded. At number 28, understand, we're getting into the good stuff. The AK-74 in Black Ops 6. Now, when this game dropped, this thing was a beast. But now that all the patches have come through, I think it's a pretty middle-of-the-road weapon. Nothing too special about it, but it does have a pretty cool weapon model, and it sounds cool. It was nice to have a full-size AK-74 in the game instead of the 7.4U that COD games usually give us, and I appreciated that as a little subtle change of pace. But what I understand, the current version of it, it's all right. Not bad, not a beast, but all right. At number 27, the AS-44 in COD World War II. I think Sledgehammer wanted this to feel like a super old-school version of the AK-47. Not sure how historically accurate that is, but it was fun in the game. So the AS-44, moderate fire rate, bouncy recoil, but it was also a very consistent 3 to 4 shot kill, and it was pretty competitive in a game like COD World War II. It was not everybody's cup of tea, but it was perfectly solid. I think this is a fair spot for it. There's a lot of guns in the game once all the DLC finished coming out. At number 26, we are rolling the AMR Mod 4 in Black Ops 6. This is the Black Ops 6 equivalent of the Barrett 50 cal, so you know what to expect. Semi-auto, super high recoil, very heavy weapon, but insane damage if you could land your shots. Now, some people love the gun. Other people hated it. I'm not really sure why there was such a split and they're dividing the community on this, but I think maybe it has to do with how quickly you want to play a game like Black Ops 6. If you wanted to play slower, then the AMR Mod 4 was probably more appealing because it didn't complement the quicker, more aggressive play styles, but on paper, it had good stats. I think it was a solid addition to the legacy of the Barrett 50 cal, even if the new name, well, the new name was stupid. At number 25. The AUG H-Bar in Modern Warfare 2 2009. Now, LMGs were very hit or miss back in classic Modern Warfare 2 days, but the AUG, it was solid. Let me explain. It had the power of an LMG, so you always knew what you were getting out of the damage profile, but it also had the fastest handling and reload speeds out of the entire LMG class. Now, granted, that also came with some of the highest recoil in the class as a way to balance it out, but I think the AUG H-Bar, it had insane potential in the right hands. Every once in a while, you would see somebody dominating the lobby with this. I think this was a sleeper pick back in the day. Not everybody knew about it, but if you did know about it, you're probably shaking your head right now saying, yeah, Jimmy, you're right. At number 24, the ARX-116 Advanced Warfare. Now, if this gun is at number 24, yeah, we're going to get pretty wild up here. The ARX was brought back from Ghost in this game, not sure why, and it was turned into a burst rifle, again, not sure why, but unlike the Ghost version of it, the Advanced Warfare version, much more popular, much more viable. Longer time to kill in the game compared to Ghost at least. This burst was quick, the recoil was low, and the iron sights were super clear if you wanted to use them, and overall, this was a good pick. Probably upper mid-range, no, it was probably higher than that. It was good for mid-range maps. Obviously, using a burst fire weapon in the jetpack game was a bit of a questionable choice, but it was a fun rifle to have in your tents. I'd probably put it at number 24 just because it was a jetpack game. I feel like if this was in a boots on the ground game, it would have been higher. At number 23, the AEK 973 in Black Ops 3. What is up with these names? This gun was busted for a while, but after Treyarch nerfed the rapid fire attachment, it got more balance, and now just a really strong burst rifle. You have to be precise. You can't use it aggressively as you once could, but it's still a great weapon for mid and long range engagements. But if you were around the first month or two of launch for BO6, you probably remember this gun plaguing multiplayer on every single map. It was like the return of the COD 4 M16 until Treyarch hit it with the nerf hammer. At number 22, the AUG in Black Ops Cold War. Now, this 3-round burst version of the classic AUG had a massive following both in multiplayer and Warzone. Well, why, you may ask? Well, let me tell you why, guys. The relatively quick handling speeds for a marksman rifle, duh! So what it lacked in long-range power, it made up for with a versatile mid-range strength with the short time between bursts and the manageable recoil. It's kind of cool to have a mid-range burst rifle like this in a game because it shook up the formula, and it unlocked a lot of really neat playstyles that I saw a lot of people showing off in multiplayer and Warzone. Now, if you wanted the slower, more traditional burst, you could use the M16. But if you were willing to sacrifice the long-range ease of use for something a little more aggressive, you were rocking the AUG. I think it did a good job. I think it fit the role in the game perfectly. At number 21, I'm kind of regretting this decision. The AK-47 in Black Ops 1, one of my favorite guns in COD history. Now, in this game, it had the fastest fire rate of any AK in COD history, although it had the lowest base damage of any AK as well. That wasn't a bad thing because the time to kill was extremely competitive, and the recoil pattern, you already know what it did. That's what sold the gun. Aim center mass, right all the way up 100% vertical recoil up to their head, and shave a shot off of your time to kill. Super satisfying. And who can forget how cool the suppressed AK-47 sounded in the heat of battle. 21, I'm questioning myself now. At number 20, the Ames 85 in Black Ops 6. I remember when this gun was a fan favorite for a while, and it still has some pretty amazing accuracy. It does. In a game like Black Ops 6, having great accuracy can be a huge blessing, even though the aims struggle up close. It's good at holding down objectives, keeping players at bay from mid to long range, so there's that. Now, it'll probably struggle if you try to get aggressive or if somebody runs up on you with an SMG, but the accuracy was good. Time to kill from mid to long range, it was intimidating. At number 19, I don't think we've ever mentioned this gun in a video. The Austin? Yeah, in COD World War II. This was one of the last weapons to be added to the game, and honestly, it was pretty solid. It was a solid way to end the DLC. It was fun. It felt really similar to weapons like the Type 100 and the Sten, but it had moderate fire rates with super low recoil and a solid range drop-off that made it really effective at close to mid-range. If you were a fan of the mid-range SMGs in the game, the Austin was probably your best friend. It may have been a reskin of the Type 100, but the Type 100 was also one of the most satisfying weapons in the game, so I don't have a problem with it. At number 18, the AK-12 in Advanced Warfare. Now, this might be a controversial placement. I love this gun. The AK-12 wasn't a top-tier weapon back in AW, but the sheer accuracy made it hard to put down once you started using it. Damage profile consistent, fire rate moderate, but it was also a complete laser beam just like in Ghost. But where the Ghost AK suffered due to the super fast average time to kill in the game, the Advanced Warfare's larger health pool meant you had a little more time to appreciate the accuracy of the rifle, and on the larger maps, it was helpful. Now, obviously, it was competing with the Bal 27 in Outclass, but I remember this was one of the first legendary weapons I got. It was the RIP AK. Now, it had a 20-round mag, which sucked, but everything else on it was awesome. At number 17, the AUG in Black Ops 1. Now, few weapons could actually stand up to the FAMAS back in the original Black Ops days, but the AUG was one of them. It was, and you needed orange tiger stripe camo on it. You didn't, but you did. If you know, you know. And if you played with me in the original Black Ops days, let me know in the comment section. Actually had the exact same fire rate damage profile as the FAMAS, but it had a different recoil pattern. A lot of people felt the FAMAS was the easier weapon to control because the recoil was more predictable. But if you wanted to shake it up, which I did, and not go with the crowd, the AUG was your best friend. If I wasn't running the AUG, I was running the Galil. If I wasn't running the Galil, I was running the infield. I mean, the time to kill was amazing. The recoil pattern sucked, more side to side, which was annoying to control, but it was a melt machine. I think this is definitely the best AUG in Call of Duty history, and it starts with the letter A. At number 16, the AK-47 in Modern Warfare 2 2009. I feel like I've been dismissive of this gun over the years, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to it. I mean, I always thought the Modern Warfare 2 AK was underwhelming compared to others. But you cannot argue with the stats. And the Modern Warfare 2 AK-47 had some insane power behind the pull of the trigger. 2 to 3 shot kill range, it was nutty. Fire rate was high enough to keep it competitive in basically any scenario. May not have been my favorite AK, may not have been the best AK, but it deserves to be up here at number 16 because when you look at the sheer power it was capable of, it's pretty insane. With how popular it was back in the day, clearly a lot of you probably agree. At number 15, the AK-74U in Black Ops Cold War. Maybe, perhaps, the most versatile version of the 74U. The Black Ops Cold War version had a ton of attachments. You could use to spruce up your playstyle, make things more accurate, more reliable. By default, I mean, it was actually kind of frustrating and bouncy. You really needed to grind and get some attachments to build up certain aspects of it, but once you did, it was a mid-range killing machine and one of the most popular SMGs in the game. So you did have to be willing to put in the work for your power here, but most players were okay with that because the payoff, it was awesome. And guys, it's been a long time since I've done one of these 30, 40-minute videos. Holy cow. At number 14, the Argus in Black Ops 3. This is by far one of the coolest shotguns in COD history. I'm giving the BO3 version a higher spot on the list than the Black Ops 4 remake because while the Black Ops 4 remake was a secondary that could be carried with you whenever you wanted, the BO3 version was a primary and therefore had much better one-shot kill potential. People were treating the Argus like the classic Black Ops 2 KSG in this game. Zip around the map, aim down the sights really quick, blow targets away with a single pull of the trigger before flipping out the tunic and magazine and doing it all over again. Awesome weapon, lots of personality, definitely one of the best A shotguns in COD history. At number 13, the Automaton Vanguard. Now, I didn't play much Vanguard, but I do remember how busted the gun was for a while because I kept seeing all the clips of it online. I was also playing Warzone at the time the gun was added to the mix. It was insane. It was known for its moderate damage but high fire rate, good accuracy. It allowed you to beam people from across the map and pepper them with damage till they fell over. Wasn't as much of a melt machine as the STG, but both rifles were generally seen as the best in the game. Their base stats were excellent. All the attachments made them better. So were you in Camp STG or Camp A? At number 12, the AMR-9 in Modern Warfare 3 2023. I'm not entirely sure why Sledgehammer decided to bring it back, but they did. I mean, especially since they completely changed how it functioned. The Advanced Warfare AMR-9, 5-round burst SMG. Nobody liked it. Modern Warfare 3's version, full auto SMG, good accuracy, competitive time to kill. In fact, it was one of the most popular SMGs in the game, and with how many roles it could fill, it's also one of the best starting SMGs in COD history, if you ask me. It was a default unlock in the game. So I think Sledgehammer must have been trying to fix the gun's legacy for whatever reason. I mean, I don't know why they call this gun the AMR-9 because it functions entirely different from the original. Surely they could have just given it a new name since it functions different, but no, I don't know. I have no idea why Sledge does some of the things they do, but the 2023 version of the AMR-9, pretty good. At number 11, the AS Val in Black Ops 6. Now, this was one of the most popular weapons in BO6 for a while because it had the built-in suppressor. It also had incredible close and mid-range time to kills. It was an assault rifle, but you were supposed to use it like an SMG, run up in people's faces, hose them down with silent bullets before disappearing into the dark and doing it again. Now, the poor bullet velocity, that meant it was really tough to use beyond mid-range. It wasn't designed for that. I'm not going to knock it off points. It barely misses the top 10, but it definitely was close. At number 10, now we're here. The AA-12 in Modern Warfare 2 2009. The first full auto shotgun in COD history. It started it all. A lot of people would say it's still the best in the franchise. The 2009 AA-12 could instantly kill anybody it touched, and yet full automatic. Yeah, secondary weapon. You could have it with you whenever you wanted to swap and get a quick get out of jail free card. The reload animation was long. The ammo situation was sticky, but I guess that's how Infinity Ward wanted to balance the absurd damage output that it was capable of. Easily the best A shotgun in COD history, which I guess is a bit of a spoiler because I just revealed there aren't any other shotguns that start with letter A in the franchise, but I think the original AA-12, this is a pretty respectable one to put on top. At number 9, the AK-47 in COD 4. One of the best assault rifles in COD history. Ridiculous 2-shot kill range, stopping power on there. The recoil was bouncy, but it was entirely vertical like the Black Ops 1 version, so as long as you started shooting at somebody's chest, you were going to ride the train up. The attachments for the gun were bugged, like the secret damage nerf on the Red Dot site, but, I mean, you were more or less first to run it naked. It didn't matter. It wasn't a big deal back in COD 4 where there were barely any attachments for anything in the first place. Definitely a high-tier A weapon in COD history. And I would argue it's one of the best AK-47s in COD history as well. In fact, I think this is the best AK-47 in COD history. Other AKs may have had better attachment selections, but the 2-shot kill range on this thing... actually, hold on. There is one other AK-47 that may have been better. At number 8, the AK-47 in Black Ops Cold War. I mean, the gun was so good it had to be removed from competitive play via gentleman's agreement. It has all the staples of the great AKs, the chunky fire rate, the high damage, the somewhat bouncy recoil, but it also had the great aspects of the gunsmith to make it even better. You could turn it into a complete melt machine from any distance. You could even tone down the recoil to make it a laser beam if you didn't want to have to get good at controlling it. The Black Ops Cold War AK-47, total annihilator, beast, whatever. I had to give it definitely gets the highest AK spot. Even if I do have more nostalgia for the COD 4 version, I know I'm an old head, but I do recognize when nostalgia is probably trumping the stats. At number 7, I want you to guess on number 1. I don't know if you're going to guess it. The AS Val in Modern Warfare 2019. One of the sweatiest guns in Call of Duty history, and for good reason. It was super fast killing as an assault rifle, had your built-in suppressor, lots of ridiculous attachments, right? I mean, a lot of things were patched out. You had the crazy, we already know about the glitch. Time to kill was absurd. It was one of the go-to weapons for pub stompers, but I have to dock it a few points here. The ammo situation. The default mag was only 20 rounds, and the biggest extended mag available, I think, was only 30. So you were going to get caught in your reload animation all the time. But still, insane weapon in the right hands. Definitely one of the best A guns in COD history. At number 6, the ACR in Modern Warfare 2 2009. What do I need to say? The laser beam assault rifle. It took the community by storm when we tried it. Sounds weird to say now, but the ACR truly did take us by surprise because of the time that classic Modern Warfare 2 came out. We'd never used a full auto assault rifle in Call of Duty that was this accurate. It was satisfying. The classic ACR literally did not move when you held the trigger down, so even though the time to kill wasn't ridiculous like other weapons in classic Modern Warfare 2, it was still one of the best guns in the game because it was a threat at any range. All you had to do was point, click, enemy was gone in, 4 bullets? I'm not one of those people who is going to tell you it's the best assault rifle in COD history, but I could totally see why so many people talk about it. And as someone who actually was there and experienced it firsthand, I can confirm it was actually that much of a game-changing moment when we first used it. Nothing else in multiplayer gaming felt like the classic ACR. Now we arrive at the top 5. These are the best of the best in the A words. The AK-74U, COD 4. This is pretty clearly one of the best SMGs in Call of Duty history to me. I still think it's wild that Infinity Ward decided to give it the kind of stats they did. I mean, this version of the AK-74U is literally just the damage profile of the full-size AK-47. But it has faster handling. I mean, higher recoil to make up for that fact, but whatever. The full-size AK-47 was easier to control while being heavier, which I think was an interesting way to handle the distinction between them, but this also means the AK-74U was a freak of nature, because if you could control the recoil or just stick to close range where recoil control didn't matter, you were two-shotting people left and right. I love this gun. It wasn't as effective as longer ranges because of the bouncier recoil, but the damage, whew, it was satisfying. At number 4, the AK-74U in Black Ops 1. The SMG that completely dominated the entire SMG meta in the Black Ops days. This was literally the only SMG that was worth using because it stood head and shoulders above the rest of class, and even if you compared it to the full-size rifles, it was better than most of them. The fire rate was solid, damage was nuts, the range was great, the recoil may have been high, but it had that 100% vertical recoil pattern as the same AK-47 we've talked about, right it up to the enemy's head for a free headshot kill. Out of all the SMGs in COD history, I don't think there's been another one that completely dominated its class the way the AK-74U did in the original Black Ops. Maybe there's one other SMG that did. Conveniently, it actually starts with an A or it wouldn't be on this list. Also, I do want to note, Black Ops 1's SMG offerings were crap. So yeah. At number 3, the ASM-1 in Advanced Warfare. Legitimately, the only SMG that was worth using back in Advanced Warfare's era. Had a lot of busted variants that made it even more of an annoyance online. Futuristic Tommy gun, phenomenal time to kill, good accuracy, crystal clear iron sights, fantastic handling speeds. There were other fun SMGs in the game, but nothing came close to the sheer power and versatility of the ASM-1 that it had on display. Naturally, you never saw other SMGs out there. If you weren't getting sprayed with the BAL-27, you were 100% getting sprayed with the ASM-1. At number 2, the AN-94 in Black Ops 2. It's one of the best final unlock weapons in Call of Duty history for a reason. Iconic for a reason. I'm sure you guys all know the 2-round hyperburst feature gave it the insane theoretical time to kill, but the classic AN-94 was such a fan favorite for many more reasons. Recoil? There was none. Reload animation? Amazing. Chef's kiss. Firing sound? Amazing. Chef's kiss. And the damage? Really good. Even if you didn't get the hyperburst, the time to kill was extremely reliable and you would almost always drop that target with 3 to 4 bullets. It was reliable. It was smooth. It was one of the best guns in Black Ops 2. Every version of the AN-94 gets compared to this one, and none of them have even come close to replicating what made this version so great. And now, my friends, from 60 to 1. We start with the alphabet. We start with A. Should we continue this series like this? More obscure list topics? The ACR 6.8. Modern Warfare 3 2011. I would argue this is one of the best assault rifles in Call of Duty history. Now, depending on the day, I would actually call this number 1. I would. The recoil, there was none. The iron sights were great. The handling was super quick and snappy, and the damage was insane. 2-shot kill as long as you hit 1 headshot. In the range, it was unbeatable. The ACR 6.8 was blatantly overpowered, but it was never nerfed despite other guns getting nerfed when they arguably didn't need to be. And even though the original ACR was nostalgic, the 6.8, it was the better weapon overall. And if you ask me, it's the best A weapon in COD history. Frankly, I don't think it's close. This is one of those lists where the gap between number 1 and number 2, I think is pretty huge. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you made it all the way to the end. If you did, do you like these super long videos? We could do more. We could do more. I'll see you guys soon.